Raptors win a close game in Washington, 113-108. This is Raptors Nightcap. I'm Randy Urban, and I'm pleased to be joined by Amy Audibert, Paul Jones, and Sherman Hamilton. Good to have the group back. How are you guys?
Great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to a somewhat of a normal season, being partly anyway in our own building.
That's right.
It'll be
Amy,
a long
how are
week
you?
after tonight. I'm good, but I feel like it's going to be a long week. It's easy for us. We just want let's go regular season. We've seen what we need to see, right?
Yeah. Well, 5 preseason games in the books. 5 times we've gotten to see number 4 pick, Scottie Barnes. I'm going to ask this question to all of you, but Jonesy, I'll start with you. What are your impressions after 5 games of this guy?
I like what I've seen. I mean, I got a good look at him out in Vegas at Summer League. He's kind of the prototype NBA bodied NBA player that you want now. Long, athletic. I've been impressed with his playmaking and his skills out on the floor in terms of his passing, and not necessarily making spectacular plays, but making the right play and having impactful assists. And then his defense is terrific. I love the defense. And a lot of people will look at him and say, well, his shot still needs work. And yeah, it does. There's a lot of parts of his game as he's young that still need work. But I mean, he's a guy that'll pick you up when you get off the bus. And, that kind of defensive intensity goes a long, long way. There are nights when the offense isn't going to go. It's finely tuned. But if you can play defense and make it difficult for other people, you're always going to be in the games. And then I love his enthusiasm. And the last thing I'll say, Randy, is I look at him at his age, at only 19, 20 years old. He may grow a little bit before this thing is all said and done. I'm talking about height. He's going to get stronger. His body's going to fill out, but he may be a little bit taller when it's all said and done too.
We're all hoping for a little bit of that. Amy, what do you think?
My time's done.
Yeah. I hope so too. I agree with Jonesy. Obviously, you talked a lot about the physical things and the skills he brings. So I'll take it to the other side and just the shoulders up. The number 4 pick overall coming in, and the first thing he says in almost every interview is, I want to work hard. I want to play defense, intangibles. And I mean, I've been fortunate to be in practice and around the team a bit. Energy. I mean, on top of that, he's one of the first guys always to come over, say hi, huge smile, ready to work. And I think he's impacting the locker room. I rate all these guys, they love Scottie. It's the first name out of their mouths when they're talking about this young, fresh team. And I think that's really important too. Aside from that, I mean, you look at Bradley Beal in that first half. I mean, there's Scottie Barnes in his face, forcing on-ball turnovers. That's special, right? I mean, It's really hard to talk about a ceiling. And once again, Bobby and Masai do their thing, right? Has everyone quieted down now and they're okay with the pick? I think we're ready. Yeah.
Sherm, this is a unique kid.
He is unique. And everything that he does on the floor, you can see the balance in this game. And, I like to look at these young players and really figure out what makes them good. What are they able to do right now? What are they going to have to work on? And what's going to be their thing when they get into games? And you look at Scottie and you look at all the areas of the game that he can impact: passing the ball, handling the basketball, rebounding, defending. His shot's not there, but he can make a shot. You're going to have to be honest with him. And I think when you look at that kind of balance in the approach, I think you really have something special to work with. So we haven't talked about in terms of this guy being able to really grow. If he becomes a guy who can shoot the basketball, remember a guy like Norm Powell came to this team and he had a broken jump shot and built it into a very effective shot. If Scottie Barnes can kind of go through that, because his jump shot is way better than Norm's was when Norm got to the Raptors, but his all-around skill set I really enjoy watching. And you can see that he's trying to think the game. The game might move a bit fast for him at this stage of his career, but you can see that he's processing as he plays. And at some point, it's going to become more instinctual instead of all the thinking. And when it does, with the skill set developing, I think he can be a pretty interesting player for this team.
Randy, it's something that I've always maintained, and we always talk about this. Give me that kid that's willing to play defense and willing to do everything else. There are a lot of people that come in and, there was uproars about the draft pick because everybody was looking at one side of the ball. And that's not to, be demeaning or disparaging of anybody else that was drafted in their defense. But this guy's a fit for Toronto. And give me that guy that's a defensive player. And as Sherm said, when you start working on his offense, and he gets in the gym and starts learning how to knock down shots. I present Tracy McGrady when he came to Toronto. Butch Carter had him, and he guarded all the tough covers on the other team. Latrell Sprewell in the playoff, like Tracy guarded all those guys. Vince was doing the scoring, but Tracy was guarding people. Tracy worked on his offense. He went to Orlando, then he went to Houston, and the guy's a Hall of Famer. So, and I'm not projecting that for Scottie Barnes right now, but I'm just saying that is a mold. Give me a kid who's a defensive player and wants to do that. I'll have a complete player pretty soon.
Yeah, it's a bold thing to say, but it's not when you look at the skill set that he already possesses and his physical gifts. And but Amy, let's go back to what this front office has done a great job of, and that's creating a lot of competition, fierce competition in this camp. What player on the fringe is sort of standing out in your mind?
Well, it's really hard not to say Sam Dekker right now. And I think I'm not sure what kind of coffee Masai and Bobby drink, but that company needs to send Sam a thank you, because I think things got a little bit tougher, right? This was a guy that really, when you look at the first 4 games of the preseason, didn't see the court much. And this is a guy that's been around professional basketball seasons for a couple of years now. So he knows what it's like to compete for a spot. So on top of not playing big minutes in the first half, not playing big minutes in the entire preseason, had one job to do. That was to go in and hit some shots. And well, he stepped up to the plate in the last couple minutes. And so I think he certainly put I guess the decisions haven't been fully made yet. And they Nick Nurse pre-game today did say that they want to make them quickly after tonight, because they have exactly 1 week before the regular season opens for them. So I mean, there's a lot of guys that we could sit here and talk about, but in terms of right now in this moment, what Sam Dekker did in the second half of the game tonight was really impressive.
Yeah.
You know, it's
who
interesting. Well, I was just going to jump on what Amy was saying about Dekker. You know, I think in preseason games, when you're trying to make decisions, the best scenario is to have a close game, to see execution, to see guys who can really respond under the pressure. And don't get me wrong, we all understand it to be preseason and it doesn't matter. But to those guys, those minutes are huge. And I thought he made big play after big play for a guy who wasn't getting the minutes he might have liked to have gotten this whole preseason, to step into the game. And as Amy talked about, his ability to make plays comes from his experience being in the NBA, understanding what it's like and taking advantage of those moments. And sometimes guys get out the league and they kind of get a wake-up call. You know, they kind of got comfortable in the league, and then the league says, we don't want you anymore. They got to go overseas and work at their craft and come back more hungry to play. And I thought we saw a Sam Dekker who was more comfortable and more understanding of taking advantage of his opportunity. And it was impressive to see what he did in that time on the floor that he had tonight.
Jonesy, I liked Goran Dragic in this preseason. You know, just the way he came in, maybe not the great approach that some Raptor fans, I had no problem with it, but like it's true. He's a professional and he's played like one here in these 5 games.
Well, it's interesting. He does. He knows how to run your team. Remember, this guy was in the finals a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And he's a 13, 14-year NBA vet. I mean, he understands what this is about. And just the little things, like you talk to the coaching staff and they've, said things like there are times when the vets are allowed to, take a drill off, or because they know that, these guys have been in the league for a long time and they want to work with the young guys. Dragic has jumped right in. He's been a professional and he's about winning. He plays hard. Like, you don't play for Pat Riley. You don't play for that Miami organization and accomplish and do the things that he's done without it showing in other places. So he's smart. Boy, he's tougher than people give him credit for. And he's willing to play that way the whole time. And that in itself sets a great example for some of the young kids and fits in with the Toronto organization. So I like him. People are already asking, do you think he's going to be around to the trade deadline up? I mean, it depends on who comes calling and all the other circumstances. But, I don't know how you can't like the guy and can't not want to have him on your team.
Amy, you want to jump in on that real quick?
I would just also say too, I think in the short time he's been around, he's really talked about it and proven that if you want me to come off the bench, if you want me to start, if you want to play with the first unit, the second unit, the guy's at a point in his career where he wants to win ball games. And I think he's showing that he's willing to do whatever that means. And sometimes that's going to be actually hitting a big shot and scoring. And sometimes that means maybe talking to the guys. Like he's already built such a nice bond with Scottie and what he's bringing over with Precious, right? They already have a connection. I think they sit beside each other on the plane. Like those are guys that need a vet like that around, and he's willing to fill that role.
And Sherm, he's a lefty, so they can shoot, right? Like looks like this a little bit. You've seen it.
Hey, all lefties aren't created equal.
All right, let's finish up the show. Let's talk about where we see this team fitting in the East. Sherm, you go.
It's going to be interesting. I think preseason is one of those things that we can look at and try to figure things out. I don't think we'll know anything. I mean, no Pascal in this preseason, no Boucher. You want to see these guys and how they're going to hit the floor running. And obviously, they're going to have to get acclimated once they get to the spot that they can play. So it's tough to say, but this team's going to be competitive. They're a team that's going to play defense. They're going to fight. They're going to make it interesting. And this team can make some noise. If they're helping with the development of OG Anunoby, he was great this preseason. Pascal back at a high level, Fred, Chris, all these guys, they're going to be a tough team to deal with throughout the course of the season.
Jonesy?
I think that, as Sherm said, they're going to come at you. They are. There will be nights when some of the offensive stuff that's finely tuned doesn't work. But, kind of cut in the Raptor mold, the way that Nick Nurse wants to play. They will be tough. They will be gritty. They'll come after you. We know that Nick is going to mix it up. He'll play zone. He'll press. He'll do whatever he has to do to keep the team competitive as long as the guys are willing to work. And, best case scenario, they secure a top 6 spot. And I think people look at how far they are removed from the championship and are downplaying and setting a low bar for them. And, as some of the Raptors have said, somebody asked Fred about it. And I think he said, well, nobody thought we were going to be that good when we won it all either. So I don't worry about that. So I just think this team's going to be really fun to watch. They're going to be very competitive. They'll have some tough losses, but they'll also win some games that will catch the attention of people around the NBA.
Amy?
Yeah, I keep thinking about, I had a coach, NCAA coach a couple of years ago after a game that I called, and she said, it doesn't always have to be pretty, but it's always got to be gritty. And I think that's what we're going to see a lot this year, which goes a long way in this league, right? Sometimes you just sit down and defend and play tough. I think, if anything, we'll get hopefully a lot of points in transition on the other way because of opportunities we create. But yes, I mean, the bar in terms of what's expected in the Toronto organization has been set, right? With tough defense, competing every night. And I mean, listen, I know it's a week and a half in, but I mean, these guys seem like they're ready to step up to that challenge because anything less than that just isn't good enough up here. So I'm excited. Young group, even our vets aren't super old. So I mean, the East is going to be tough, but I agree with Jonesy. I think top 6 would be amazing, but I mean, I do believe this is the potential to be a postseason team here.
Hey, Randall, don't underplay the fact that they're back home too.
Yeah.
They were a different team at Scotiabank Arena already.
And knowing that, right? And having that experience to not take for granted. I mean, I'm not saying they did, but when something's taken away from you, you appreciate it quite a bit more when you get it back.
You're home, the crowd pumps your tires a bit. You get some wins at home, and all of a sudden the confidence starts to flow. And when somebody's confident, it's tough to take them down. If they believe that they can do it, and this young team, all they need is a few quality wins, especially at home. And they could be trouble. They could be like kind of like, well, here's your left-handed analogy, Randa. And Sherm is a boxing guy, and I don't know if Amy's a boxing person, but nobody ever wanted to fight the southpaw fighter. It's always dangerous. It could be the Raptors.
Yeah. Sherm, you want to go?
I'd love to go a few rounds with you, Herb. I'd love it.
Not all left-handed fighters are created equal.
No, they are not. They are not. But I can run really fast. All right, guys. I appreciate you doing this first version of Raptors Nightcap this season. I'm looking forward to it starting for real next week. I hope you join us then. All right. See you next time.